Okay, hello there. So this one's a little bit awkward because I did stream yesterday, but apparently there was issues with my ISP, which caused OBS to crash. So the stream didn't go through. So we got things done, but unfortunately no one could see it. So we're gonna go over what I did yesterday. Then we'll get on to the next section. Then we'll go on from there. I already started with the mythological tie-in, so just bear with me. We'll get to that tomorrow. I just gotta do a little bit more refreshing on them. So we'll read what I wrote yesterday, then we'll get on to the next section. Time. When you're isolated and alone, behaves differently. You start to lose your grasp on the world. It feels like time is never consistent. What feels like an hour is only minutes just going by, and then vice versa. In horror, this distortion of time is cruel. You are in the moment, alert and aware. But the longer you remain isolated, the more it eats at your sense of self. The game or the story stops needing to scare you with what lurks behind the door. Instead, it makes you wonder, how long has it been since it was last opened? Oh my god. How long it's been since it was yeah, I screwed up there. How long has it been since it was since the door was last opened? There we go. Instead, it makes you wonder how long it's been since the door was last opened. Alright. There's a point where the loss of time becomes a loss of self. Without markers, sunrise, sunset, and the passing noise of the world, you feel like you're in limbo. You exist, but you're not aware of how long you've been doing so. Jesus Christ. This is why we proofread. The longer isolation lasts, the more your memory begins to wear down. You begin forgetting small details. Where have you been? What you've seen, and even who you are. The mind tries to restore order, but it becomes harder the more time goes by. And eventually, the terrifying realization comes to fruition. Maybe time hasn't stopped at all. Maybe it's you coming to terms that you're truly isolated. Maybe it's you coming to terms that you are truly isolated. I actually had with there. Maybe it's you coming to terms that you are truly isolated. The world continues to move on while you remain trapped in a moment that refuses to pass. Anyways, that's what we wrote yesterday. But ISP issues, for some odd reason, didn't allow this stream to go through. So we're going to be working on, if I remember correctly, it's Isolation and Madness, when you actually go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Then after that, we get on to the mythological tie-ins. Okay, so what happens where we get to the breaking point, where we just start going absolutely crazy? Alright. When isolation lasts too long, something changes. Something changes. Something changes. Our mind begins edging towards the breaking point. It's a little return. Jesus Christ. I'm just whiffing worse today. We stop expecting rescue. We stop expecting rescue. We'll do short sentences. We'll just build up a little bit. We stop expecting rescue. Stop looking. We stop looking. We stop looking. We stop looking for any source of life. After I'm kind of pushing it a little bit. This. Yeah, I'm kind of pushing this a little bit. For a while. It's as if we've finally given up. We're gonna use a fun word here. It's as if we've finally given up. We've succumbed. I knew it. I don't use it often. I'm so mad. Succumbed. Succumbed. I always say succumbed. It's succumbed. We've succumbed to the isolation. I think I'm being a little bit too. I'm being extra here. When isolation lasts too long, something changes. Our mind begins edging towards the breaking point, the point of no return. We stop expecting rescue. We stop looking for any source of life. It's as if we've finally given up. We've succumbed to the isolation. Hmm. I'm trying to think of a good horror example of this where like the MC has just like completely just resigned themselves. They just finally like given up. Because it doesn't usually happen like at all, actually. Hmm. I do have to pay attention to the time. Again, I'm still working through this injury on my shoulder. I'm doing the therapy, but if I'm doing like what's the exercise? Lateral rows, start feeling it right here. Horror often plays with this transition. Let's change the OST. Let's listen to some classic Resident Evil music actually. And we need to set the mood. Let's see. Let's go with some RE2 ambience. Why not? That's loud. Horror often plays with this transition. Horror often plays with this transition. See, if this was like one of the Souls games, it'd be so much easier. Just because we have literally a character that's dedicated to just pretty much just giving up, which is the Crestfallen guys. Or God, I just haven't played Elden Ring in such a long ass time. But yeah, there's a in each Souls. I can't say each one because I never played Sekiro. I played Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, and Elden Ring. I've never played Sekiro and Bloodborne, of course. But there's always a crestfallen person who's just pretty much just given up on life and just resigns to their fate. It's harder in it's harder here because generally the protag doesn't really give up; they want to survive. But the supporting cast, I guess, in a sense, maybe OG Brad in RE3, maybe. I'm not thinking of any character at the top of my head right now. Holy shit! But yeah, like it's harder in horror games because generally characters are either dead or you're the MC who wants to survive, so they're not going to give up. But if it's like a Souls game, oh, they have a dedicated character for that. Horror often plays with this transition. It shows what happens when someone has given up. I need to think of an example of that. Wait, when someone it shows when someone stops fighting the isolation. The Russian guy in Revelations 2 that Mora interacts with, he's resigned to his fate. and he actually dies. When by the time you get there with Barry and the Lolly, he's that. There we go. Kroshka. Say what you will about Mora, I like the character. She just a little bit too foul mouth, but she was spunky. It shows when someone stops fighting isolation and begins living with it. It starts. Okay. When isolation lasts. Alfred, in a sense. Yes, actually. Alfred goes batshit crazy, actually. Yeah, Alfred. There you go. Alfred. Alfred Ashford. There we go. Because he was, Alexia was his, Alexia was his everything. But we'll forget about the incest. But, we'll forget about the potential incestual shenanigans happening there. It's not confirmed, but yeah, that cutscene was pretty crazy. It's a little bit too close, but yeah, like Alfred actually when Alfred in a sense was isolated. He didn't have his the only person in the world that mattered to him for like years because Alexia literally froze herself for research purposes with the T. Veronica virus just so it can incubate inside of her body. But yeah, Alfred went batshit crazy and actually masqueraded as Alexia. Alfred was very good. Was very good. He was good at his job when I was playing through the game. He really was like the star of Code Veronica. Besides Steve. Steve, for all the wrong reasons. But no, Alfred definitely fits this role. When isolation lasts too long, something changes. Our mind begins edging towards the breaking point, the point of no return. We stop expecting rescue. We stop looking for any source of life. It's as if we've finally given up. We've succumbed to the isolation. Horror often plays with this transition. It shows when someone stops fighting isolation and starts living with it. Don't need to repeat myself. There's an alcoholic beverage inside of this flask. Unless you can drink this alcoholic beverage, don't drink it. Cherish your liver. This comes standard issue in the military, by the way. That's totally a joke. Okay. Do. Okay. All right, we'll use Alfred as this is. God. We'll use Alfred as an example. Okay. So the mind that was once overwhelmed with solitude. I'm kind of pushing it here, but we're setting this up. Overwhelmed with solitude. The mind that was once overwhelmed with solitude begins to rely on it, yeah. Hey, it's Hell Hallway. Every hallway in Resident Evil 2 OG is like, why? Like, seriously, why? Especially Blue Hall. Oh my god. It's a lot of zombies. The mind that was once overwhelmed with, well, with solitude begins to rely on it. That's the topic, right? Let's talk about that. We'll make that a future video. Let's talk about the psyche of Alfred Ashford. Holy shit! Yeah, that would be a good one. So yeah, it bends reality to make sense of things. Sort of. It bends reality. It bends reality. Oh, hold on. This is the jump scare. Look, you hear that gigantic crash? There you go. Makes sense. Makes sense of things. Alright, what time is it? Fuck, it's already been 15 minutes. Alright, so we'll do like another 5 minutes. We're cooking right now. Again, I do apologize for the short streams until I have like 10 more days until I get my MRI done. I don't want to fuck around and find out. Because in this position, it's kind of awkward. Invents reality and ways to make sense of things. How can I tie this into Alfred, though? Oh. Perhaps. 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 Such as, no. Fuck! I gotta be very careful here. Invents reality and ways to make sense of things. Such as doing things in order to fill in the void left behind by a loved one. Ah, there we go. All right. Oh god, that's so terrible. In order doing drastic things. In order to fill the void left by a loved one. His was intense though. He literally cross-dressed as Alexia. Masked his voice too to sound like Alexia. Alfred Ashford was gold in Code Veronica in all the right ways. At that point, you're literally gone, sort of. At that point, the distinction between between sanity and survival blur. Unfortunately, this does not apply to this. Fuck. Yeah, this one apply to FNAF. Possibly Silent Hill F, not Resident Evil 4. Yeah, this is probably Silent Hill F1. At that point, the distinction between sanity and survival blurs. You will never do before. Become routine. Become routine. Try playing RE2 OG in the dark with headphones on, with the volume max. Once that boom, if you're not expecting it comes, holy shit! That stillness. No. The worst part of it is things that you know aren't real. The worst part of no, fuck, we can't do that. Yeah, fuck, we actually did. Even things that aren't real. Even things that aren't real are put into question. Like Alexia! There we go. All right. Even things that aren't real are put into question because part of you still wants to believe it. Hmm. Okay, let me read this. When I, oh, these old eyes. People that watch this VOD don't get old. Oh my god, these eyes are terrible. Okay, when isolation lasts too long, something changes. Our mind begins edging towards the breaking point, the point of no return. We stop expecting rescue. We stop looking for any source of life. It's as if we're finally giving up. We've succumbed to the isolation. Horror often plays with this transition. It shows when someone stops fighting isolation, starts living with it. The mind that was once overwhelmed with solitude begins to rely on it. It bends reality in ways that it bends reality to make sense of things, such as doing drastic things in order to fill the void. Whoa, I just really screwed that one up. To fill the void. Wait, I'm an idiot. To fill the void left by a loved one. That at that point, this is where we proof. At that point, the distinction between sanity and survival blurs. Things that you would never do before become routine. Even things that aren't real are put into question because part of you still wants to believe it. We're gonna be cheeky. I have the perfect sentence for this. Because it's easier. It's easier. It's easier to talk to a voice that doesn't exist than come to terms that no one will ever answer. There we go. Because it's easier to. So yeah, it's easier to talk to a voice. Yeah, because Alfred was talking. Oh yeah, because Alfred was talking. Once you get into that cutscene, it looks like Alexia and Alfred having a conversation, but it's just Alfred talking to himself. Oh man! All right, there we go. We are cooking because it's easier to talk to a voice that doesn't exist than to face the truth that no one will ever answer. Oh, we are cooking. Okay. This is what makes madness unsettling. It doesn't shout or break. It doesn't shout or break. It grows slowly. It grows slowly in the spaces that no one can reach. In your brain. And before you realize it, before you realize before you realize it, before you realize it, and before you realize it, the silence you feared, silence you feared, has become the only thing keeping you grounded. There we go. All right. but I don't think we need to add any more there. All right, let's read this again. When isolation lasts too long, something changes. Our mind begins edging towards the breaking point, the point of no return. We stop expecting rescue. We stop looking for any source of life. It's as if we've finally given up. We've succumbed to the isolation. Horror often plays with this transition. It shows when someone stops fighting, isolation and starts living with it. The mind that was once overwhelmed with solitude begins to rely on it. It bends reality in ways to make sense of things, such as doing drastic things in order to fill the void left by a loved one. At that point, the distinction between sanity and survival blurs. Things that you would never do before become routine. Even things that aren't real are put into question because part of you still wants to believe it. Okay. Because it's easier to talk to a voice that doesn't exist than face the truth that no one will ever answer. Wow. That is totally just Alfred Ashford right there. This madness and isolation is truly unsettling. This is what makes madness and isolation truly unsettling. It doesn't shout or break. It grows slowly in places that no one can reach. And before you realize it, the silence you feared has become the only thing keeping you grounded. Okay, that's actually an interesting topic. I might do an Alfred Ashford exclusive video on like how him and his psyche, because I don't have any requests right now. Besides, I don't have any requests. I'm just doing my own little backlog of things because I do have a Type Moon video to do, and I do have another Human Echo video to do. Human Echo, then Type Moon, and we'll go back to horror. So yeah, there's a few things I want to do, but I might actually put that in the backlog. There's like a shit ton of videos I need to release, so we'll figure it out. That's actually a good idea for something. So tomorrow, I feel like we're done with the main bulk of this. We're on page 6 right now. So we're gonna get started with the 3 mythological tie-ins. If I remember correctly, I don't have an outline up. One of them is the Minotaur, Fenrir, and I will figure out the third one later. But tomorrow's gonna pretty much just be me refreshing on things because I do have a good amount of knowledge when it comes to mythological stories. So I just haven't touched base on the Minotaur and the Labyrinth in a while. And Fenrir, I know about Fenrir a lot about Fenrir actually. And the third one, I'm pretty sure I can't remember because it's been so long since I actually looked at that outline. It's been a while since we actually completed that outline. But after that, after the 3 things are done, we're going to finally get started with the case studies. And again, the case studies will be long because we're doing both Resident Evil 4s, we're doing Silent Hill F, and we're doing Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach Ruin. So stand by. We're almost done with this narrative. Hopefully by the end of this month, we'll get the video out. And I do apologize for how long this is taking, but unfortunately, I am typing with an injury that I can't do nothing about. Anyways, good shit. We did about a few extra minutes